School bullying is an age-old issue and something that sadly never goes away. But if you discovered your child was being bullied at school, how would you deal with it? Tonight on Corrie, Chesney takes matters into his own hands, going straight to teachers when he discovers his son Joseph is the victim of cruel bullies.
We said thank you to Fizz for dropping you off home.
What's happened?
He told Mrs. Anderson about Callum and Ben.
Right, and did they keep away from you?
Yeah.
Well, that's good, isn't it?
No, it's embarrassing. I told you it was going to get a million times worse.
Well, you don't know that, mate, and they might stay away from you now.
You promised you wouldn't tell anyone. You lied. I hate you.
Hey, you don't mean that.
And you always take his side. You were stupid.
Leave him to cool off. He'll be all right.
I'll mess that one up, don't I?
Oh, it's so difficult, isn't it? And it's difficult to know what to do because all you want to do is help.
Yeah.
And sometimes maybe that isn't the best approach. What do you think, Katie?
Well, I do agree. I agree with what he did. And I think you're right. You want to protect your children. And I think children can be quite good at masking and pretending that they're not out of their depth and they can cope. And then you don't know if this escalates to self-harming, possible suicide attempts. So I would do the same and I would go to the school. And I think the experience now would be, you know, I went to school in the 90s, so bullying finished when the bell rang and you went home. Now, bullying continues into the bedroom, on WhatsApp, on the internet. So I think you need this dual approach of the parents and the teachers communicating and both monitoring it in and out of school.
Yeah. I think it's really hard because as a teenager especially, you just want to be accepted and you don't... It's bad enough. Like when I was at school, in my primary school, everybody picked on me because I had national health glasses and I had big teeth and I was the tallest girl in the school. So I stood out, you know, I couldn't hide. And then when I was a teenager, I just developed a way of handling it, which is when people laughed at me, I felt superior. And that is a tactic that I've employed ever since.
It's funny, though, because when we were talking about this earlier, you said you don't see yourself as having been bullied.
No, not really. I just thought it was part of what school life was like, which is quite harsh. And the harsh things about school prepare you for everyday life, you know, in the real world. No one's going to do anything for you. You've got to do it for yourself. And you've got to understand how people are going to react to you. And when they don't react in the way you want, you've got to be able to handle it. I mean, having said all that, I was horrible to my sister. I've written about it. And obviously, she's sadly dead now, so she can't give her point of view. But we both acknowledged that growing up, I was furious that she was even born as the eldest child. You think, oh, why does there have to be another one? You know,
but is that rivalry or is that bullying?
It's not really bullying, but I did try to push her down the stairs once. But
that's assault.
I think it depends on... There's no sort of, like, across-the-board policy with bullying in this country. So I think it depends on the school and how they handle it. So if your child goes to a school where they have a proper due process and they take it seriously and they deal with it, then that's the right approach, I think, to involve the school. But there are some schools where they will just brush it under the carpet and they'll almost protect the bully because they don't want to exclude any pupils, so they would rather that it just goes away. So then in that case, the child feels very exposed because, you know, it will get round that their parent will be like, oh, you know, your mum or dad came in and dealt with it for you, you know, you're a wuss or whatever. So I think you have to be very careful in terms of you know, what you're dealing with. But, yeah, I think what you say is right about social media. It's so different now to when we were at school. You know, you kind of dealt with it in the day or, you know... And for me, actually, I never experienced bullying and I put it down to completely being good at sport. So I had my tribe, if you like, the sporty ones, and we were always on a bus going somewhere in foul weather. And we kind of got left alone because we weren't sort of in the school the whole time.
You had each other, so there's safety in that, isn't
there?
Yeah,
so I'm a big fan of sport in terms of being a, you know, a great kind of way of getting away from all of the kind of hothouse nature of school, I think.
With the social media, do you think the responsibility lies with the parent? Because I'm thinking, well, the teachers can't really monitor what's going on phones and outside of school. You know, I'm lucky that my kids aren't at the age where I'd let them have a phone yet, but maybe I'm coming from quite an ignorant place because I think, well, I'd be monitoring the phone. But am I completely naive about this? Do you think that's possible?
I don't think you can monitor the phone. That's the real problem. All you can do is control the hours your child has the phone.
Yeah.
And remove it.
But apps, you know, where you track them and you,
There,
and you have
there is
software.
software that you can put in to a child's phone that will alert you to certain activity, etc. So, you know, research shows that if a child is being bullied or is the bully, there will be a flurry of messages at one time because there's something going on, and the software would then alert the parent to that. But that only really works at a very young age. I think once you get past about 14, it's a real struggle to
you've lost them
control
to their phone at that point.
And isn't the other issue that your child might accuse you of spying on them by using these apps? There's a fine line. As you say, when a child's younger, still at primary school, that's acceptable. But when you're a teenager, the one thing you're craving is privacy and you want to make your own decisions. So if you think mum or dad are policing your phone in an unacceptable way, that's going to make your behaviour worse.
I mean, there will be people watching this who will be at their wits' end because they will have a child who's been bullied, systematically bullied. They will have been to the school several times to try and get some sort of, you know, resolution, and they won't be getting anywhere. And they won't have the option of going, OK, well, I'm just going to take my child out and homeschool maybe because they work or they haven't got the money to move areas. You know, there's a lot of people that are just trapped in these situations with no help. And I think a kind of a national policy where schools are required to deal with bullying in a certain way and not brush it under the carpet.
Maybe communicate with the other parent. But obviously, sometimes that common sense isn't always prevailing.
And sometimes the parent can be a bit of a bully.
And that's
do you know what I mean? You open up a whole can of worms there.
Behaviour, isn't it?
Yeah.
But as you say, if there was a blanket sort of policy amongst all
like a due
schools,
process.
like you say, all different schools react differently and teachers will deal with things differently. So it can sometimes be the luck of the draw, just how strong they want to go on it. And if you say no school really wants to exclude any pupil, they'll go to great extremes to try to keep everyone together. So it's a very difficult perspective from them, for them too. But it's not an easy time.
But with social media, you know, these WhatsApp groups where you've got a lot of bullying, the evidence is there in writing. So they can't pretend that it's not happening.
Very true, very true.